The engine N1 and N2, those are the turbines inside the engine where we're getting a reading of how much power we're getting out of the engine. Both of those now begin to decrease from their takeoff values as the fuel supply to the engine was cut off. So when you put those two switches to cut off, it cuts off a valve in the engine and it cuts off fuel completely. The engines begin now to spool down, and we read that on N1 and N2. The pilots are going to hear it in their ear before they see it on the instrument in front of them. That's important. I'll come back to that in a second. In the cockpit voice recorder now, one of the pilots is heard asking the other, why did he cut off? Why did he cut off? Right? So now, if it had been just a mistake or somehow the fuel switches had vibrated into the position, you wouldn't turn to the other person and say, why did you do that? Right? You would say, what just happened? Or why did that happen? But you wouldn't say, why did you do that? Right? Why did he cut it off? So here's what's going on. You're driving, you're flying down the runway. You get to rotate speed. So the other pilot calls rotate. You're the pilot at the controls. You pull the nose back of the airplane, and you're using your peripheral vision almost exclusively at this point. Why is that? Because when you pull that nose up, all you're going to see above you is sky. You have no visual reference of anything. So now your peripheral vision watches the ground outside the airplane do like this as you're lifting off, and you've got a normal rate of climb that you're expecting to see happen. In addition to that, you're going to transition your view down to the scope in front of you, or the screen in front of you, that basically shows you're lifting off the ground at a normal rate. So all of those things are happening at the same time. Your peripheral vision is going to pick up anything that's not normal, and if the person next to you reaches over, or on this side, the first officer reaches over and grabs the fuel control switches, we don't know who did it, whether it was the captain or the first officer. It really doesn't make any difference at this point. One of the pilots did. The other pilot is going to see it out of the corner of their eye. At first, it's not going to register. You're going to go, what? What was that? Right? And then you're going to hear it. And that's the biggest indication. You're going to hear those engines begin to spool back. At that point, you're going to go, whoa, wait a minute. Did I just see what I thought I saw? That takes a split second. You're going to turn to the other person and you're going to say, why did you do that? Now, whatever comes out of the mouth of the other person at this point is really kind of irrelevant. I think the report here goes on to say that after he said, why'd you cut it off? He says the other pilot responded that he did not do so. I have 8 kids, and every time I caught my kids red-handed in something and I would confront them with it, they would say, I didn't do it, all right? I don't think what comes out of the other pilot is relevant to this. There's only 2 people in that cockpit, and one of them saw the other do like this and heard the engines roll back. There is no procedure anywhere in the history of aviation where immediately after rotate, you grab both fuel control switches and place them to cut off. There simply is not. This was not a mistake. This was something that was done intentionally. So with that being said, it's consistent with 1001, 1002. The pilot now at the controls, or maybe the other pilot, maybe it was a pilot flying that did it. We don't know. Looks, confronts the other pilot. You're going to go naturally back and look outside the airplane for a second. Maybe you're going to push the power levers up. That takes a second or two. You got to work through denial for a couple of seconds. And then at some point when you see it registers with you what's going on, you're going to instinctively reach over and grab those fuel control switches and put them back in the run position. That happened here.